Hello, everyone, and welcome to GoT Thrones, a Game of Thrones podcast. I'm Alexandra August.
And I'm Johnny Kolosinski.
And welcome to Game of Thrones Superfight!
Woohoo! I always feel like Kermit the Frog running around going, yay! on the intro to this. That's my mental picture of myself.
I have that image in my head now, so now it's mine, of you.
Yay!
If you can't tell, I'm really excited about today's matchup, but it's too great to start with. It would be like walking into a steakhouse at 4:00 and ordering a tomahawk to yourself. Like, you need some appetizers and maybe cocktail hour before you get to that. So
I think I've just discovered my weekend plans.
I know, right? Those are my everyday plans if I have money.
I think we've mentioned on the podcast that I moved, and there's a butcher shop just down the street, and they had a tomahawk, like, just sitting there in the butcher's cabinet, which I don't see normally, and I drooled a little.
Just a little?
Just a little.
Just a little. Well, as long as it was just a little.
Yeah. So that's what's new in my life. So straight to the thrones.
Straight to the thrones. I think we've mentioned a couple of times on the show just recently, because it's only recently become relevant, the Grand Maester Conspiracy that appears in the A Song of Ice and Fire series, but has as of yet has not really been addressed on the show, but there are indications it might be in the coming seasons. And so, since I know exactly nothing about the Grand Maester Conspiracy, Johnny's gonna act as like my professor today and sort of
I'll do my best. So the Grand Maester Conspiracy essentially is the idea that the Citadel as a whole, so not individual maesters, but the organization of the maesters, have a mission to eliminate magic from Planetos.
Which is pretty typical when you consider what organizations of old white men tend to get together to do, which is usually
it's destroy magic.
Yeah, and act as giant fucking buzzkills.
Yeah. Some of the hints we have towards this come from a character that we've yet to see in the show, Maester Marwyn, who is likely who Sam will be studying under.
We're excited about this in part because Maester Marwyn will be played by the brilliant, the wonderful, the soft and apparently cuddly Jim Broadbent, who...
He does look just comfortable.
Yeah, he looks like a really comfortable kind of, like, rumpled suit. Like, he's a grandpa that you could snuggle. Even when he was Slughorn in Harry Potter, like, he was a little bit snuggly.
Mm-hmm. Now, Maester Marwyn is the one maester in the Citadel who is actively studying magic. He's one of the few that has his... every link on your chain is essentially the equivalent of having another master's degree.
Yeah, it's an area of expertise.
Yes, and he's one of the few that has a Valyrian steel link to his chain, which is his expertise in magic and prophecy and all of that old stuff. We're first introduced to Maester Marwyn in the prologue to A Feast for Crows, where Pate, who is his apprentice, is hanging out with a bunch of other apprentices, and they talk about how Marwyn the Mage is, quote, not like other maesters. The other maesters and archmaesters think that he's, quote, unsound, and he spent 8 years in the East mapping the distant lands.
He is 100% everyone's favorite teacher in high school.
Yeah.
Everyone's favorite science teacher. He's the one who, like, lets you light stuff on fire safely.
And or stands on the desk all the time.
Definitely.
He's the wacko one.
But he's really smart, though, right? Like, that's the thing.
He's super smart and is the black sheep of the Citadel, essentially. Pate, his apprentice, is killed by a faceless man who takes his place.
So, does it seem likely that the Maesters, in an effort to eradicate magic, because magic is obviously a threat to their power, have found out about Marwyn, are sick of him, and sent him the Faceless Man? Or do you think that he poses maybe a greater danger, so somebody else is looking to kill him?
That's a good question. depending on what you think of Jaqen H'ghar and what Jaqen H'ghar's mission was getting to the wall, that will tie into whether maybe the Faceless Man is getting closer to him to assassinate him. Maybe the Faceless Man is getting closer to him to protect him.
Yeah, I think that's something that no one's really considered, because the Faceless Men, or I think that people have considered it, but it's not everyone's first instinct, obviously. But the thing about that is the Faceless Men have, like, they don't necessarily need to assassinate people, and they've been known to kill good people when it comes to fighting for the greater good. They're not that picky about it if necessary. Well, I mean, they are and they aren't, but...
Yeah, they don't kill without a reason.
Yeah, I think his murder of Pate doesn't immediately put him in the I want to murder Maester Marwyn column.
Right. And Jaqen H'ghar, if you remember, was not originally en route to hang out with Arya. Jaqen, unless you think he was Syrio. Jaqen H'ghar was in a cage heading to the wall.
Exactly.
At the wall is Maester Aemon Targaryen. Targaryens who have the last bit of Valyrian dragon blood on Planetos.
Or that, or simply just trying to get, maybe doing some kind of reconnaissance, trying to get to a point, like trying to get closer to a perceived threat to get an eye on it or something like that. Just to have someone there that would represent the interests of the House of Black and White. Because they're global citizens.
As far as the Grand Maester Conspiracy goes, Jaqen H'ghar is headed to the wall to assassinate Aemon Targaryen.
Okay, so because he holds the last bit of magic and dragon's blood.
Because he is one of the few remaining connections to magic. So yeah, that's a little bit on the Grand Maester's Conspiracy. You can delve really deeply into it if you want. It's just, a couple quick Googles away.
It's pretty relevant for these times, because it's just the idea of one source of power sticking their head in the sand regarding a huge threat. I mean, it couldn't get to be a clearer metaphor for global warming. I think there's been some documentation of George R. R. Martin intending this to be a metaphor for global warming, which I know everyone's talked about. But it's really strong when you think of the Maester Conspiracy.
Yeah.
And the fact that they will blindly deny that. That said, was always interested me about this since I first kind of came across it, is that it's not that the Maesters don't believe in magic, they just want to get rid of it.
Yeah, they actively want to stop it. And that, like I said, is where I don't see the Faceless Men working for them or alongside them. If, as in the show, part of the Faceless Men's efficiency and ability is
to use magic.
Preternatural. Yes.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's interesting, because you can also see the campaign of misinformation that they run. I mean, Maester Luwin flat out told Bran, he was like, there is no magic. That time is over. I didn't learn anything when I was studying the higher mysteries. It just, everyone does it. And so clearly the fact that there is still magic around, they either know about and are like squashing as soon as possible. And the other half of that is just telling every maester who comes out of Old Town, this is the party line. This is what you teach the ruling classes of Westeros or anybody who can hire you, that there is no more magic, that we got rid of it. Or that there simply is no more.
Or they're actively, there's only 10 maesters who actively know that it's still a thing.
Yeah, I think that's...
And
I don't know,
they're not
we say that,
they're
but
not just misleading... They're not just misleading the lords, but they're misleading most of the maesters as well.
Yeah, that makes sense too. I just think of Grand Maester Pycelle and I'm like, are you really capable of that level of deception? I know that he had everybody fooled into thinking he was an old man, but I don't know that he can juggle this many balls.
Maybe Pycelle is only 22, much like Melisandre is like 455.
Well, we'll never know, will we?
We won't.
Thank goodness.
Unless we see the long-form birth certificate.
I wonder, because the one thing I'm really excited about in Season 7 is to see everybody cross paths. And now, given all this talk of magic and the shot that Carice Van Houten released on her Instagram a few weeks ago of herself in age makeup, that Johnny and I are in pretty much agreement that was taken currently that's not an old photo that was taken that was taken from this season's filming. So Melisandre's going to be out and about. She can't be in the north. She's clearly going to be using some kind of magic or losing some kind of magic if she's in age makeup again. I think it makes a decent amount of sense for her to maybe head to Old Town. It stands to reason she and Maester Marwyn have crossed paths.
I would say Old Town or the Dragonstone.
Maybe. I think that's unlikely, but for reasons I cannot divulge.
Okay.
Cool. I think with that we can head into a little bit of Superfight.
Yeah.
You like some Superfight?
I like some Superfight.
I'm still really, really excited about this matchup. Two contenders. Height of their physical prowess.
We have in one corner Ramsay Bolton driving a tank and locked in an antique diver's helmet.
And in the other corner, Khal Drogo of the Dothraki Sea, armed with a shotgun and a mustache that can stretch and move at will.
I am not convinced that Jason Momoa's mustache can't do that.
And you know what? You know where it gets its ability? From the sheer joy of being able to ride on his face. That mustache knows exactly how lucky it is.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Ramsay driving a tank locked in an antique diver's helmet. Drogo armed with a shotgun and a mustache that can stretch and move at will. Where should this battle take place?
Woof. Part of me wants to go Aquaman, especially with the diver's helmet. By the way, I'm picturing him in a diver's helmet and like his skivvies. And set it by the ocean. But
I like this. What if they... Okay, go with me on this. These are guys that are, big into, like, well, I guess Ramsay less so, but, like, are big into, like, battle and fighting and man stuff. And what if we put them in Old Town with all the nerds?
That works for me.
At any point in time during this battle, whatever your visual is, listeners, always make sure there's a maester, like, fleeing, like, on and off camera in the background.
Yeah.
You can hear the clank.
And or Sam Tarley, mildly oblivious, about to walk right through the middle with the nose in his book.
I think he actually does that at some point. We'll have to notate when that happens.
Done.
Okay, so Drogo doesn't have... I gotta say, if Ramsay's driving a tank, I think Drogo is riding a horse, and I think he's got a couple on deck.
Yeah.
I think that's fair.
Yeah, he doesn't have a herd, but he's got his backup horses.
He's got 4 or 5. I'm envisioning that scene in Last Crusade when Indy rides off with the horses, and he's got like 3 in that tank scene when Indy drives off with the horses. Oh, this is perfect. It's just like that.
Jason Momoa, Harrison Ford prequel, Indiana Jones prequel confirmed.
Oh my god! If Jason Momoa took over the role of Indiana Jones, they could make as many of those as they wanted to, and I would never say a word. And I am an Indiana Jones freak, mostly because of Harrison Ford.
What about Jason Momoa in John Rhys Davies' role?
No, gotta be
no, because he's too damn huge, damn bulky.
He would if Jason Momoa were Sala, Indy would have been left in the dust like weeks ago. Sala would have been like, "This is fucking stupid. I can do this on my own. Go home and tidy your museum."
You belong in a museum.
So they are in Old Town, and I feel like Ramsay is just... I feel like the cause of this battle is that Ramsay has been joyriding this tank over Old Town and running over whatever gets in his way, be it building or person.
I feel like the cause of this battle is that Khal Drogo saw a tank.
Needed to possess it.
Yeah. I don't think that there are deep underlying hatreds or protecting the populace. This is, holy shit, that's a tank.
And it's mine now.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Khal Drogo could have taken over a decent amount of Westeros just on his own, but with a tank, unstoppable.
Yeah. It's a good thing that we didn't switch these around, because
I remember it because it came up and it was like, Drogo, it's too much for Drogo to have a tank. That's too much power. Too much power for one man to have, that man, at least.
Mm-hmm. For that, yeah.
But I bet you know what it starts. It doesn't start like a fight. Maybe it's Drogo like kind of riding up to Ramsay and trying to like get his attention and be like, "Hey, dude, I like your tank. Can I drive your tank?" But Ramsay can't hear it because he's locked in an antique diver's helmet.
Right. And Khal Drogo is pissed because, rude.
Rude. So the first 10 minutes of this is Drogo riding alongside Ramsay's tank, explaining to him that A, he really likes his tank, really wants to ride in it. Then he's like, dude, hey, I want to ride in your... Hey, dude, what the... You know what? I'm going to take your tank, man. And then,
We're seeing this as like, he's not... Is Ramsay enclosed in the tank, or is he sitting up Patton style?
I think he's sitting up Patton style because we got to see this helmet.
Yeah, all right. I'm glad we're on the same page here.
Have Ramsay, like tiny Ramsay, sticking out of this tank, just like gleeful.
Yeah, this is a G.I. Joe action figure tank.
Yeah, I guess that means okay, for the purposes of this fight, he's driving the tank from the porthole. Okay, I know that's not how tanks work, but this one does.
This one does because that's the only way that the action figure fits.
Exactly.
Especially with the helmet.
Exactly. Yeah, I think it's just, I think the only reason, maybe the tank is going a little bit too fast for Drogo, so he can't catch up and get in his eye line.
Mm-hmm.
So...
Or his eye line is completely blocked because he's in a freaking diving helmet.
That's true. He can literally, it's like wearing big horse blinders. He can literally only see straight ahead and he doesn't bother. He's not a guy who looks left and right. He just goes.
Yeah.
So finally, I guess what... Oh, and then Drogo clearly uses his mustache to whip Ramsay in the butt, like kind of like a towel flick, because that's a 100% Drogo move.
Yeah.
And then Ramsay turns around.
He turns the whole gun port around.
Exactly. I think he turns his head around first a little bit, and then he turns.
Then realizes he can't because he's in a freaking diving helmet.
And at this point, Ramsay is not upset.
No.
He's just curious.
Yeah.
But Drogo now has a gun pointed straight at him. So now Drogo, who's upset, now has a giant gun barrel staring him in the face. So of course, what does he do?
He whips out his own gun.
Which is also very large.
And this is not at all indicative of anything. Who gets the first shot?
I think it's got to be Drogo because he's the one who's angry. So I think he sees the gun and he's like, fuck you. And he's like, excuse me. And he fires clean at Ramsay's head. But the antique diver's helmet deflects the shot.
Deflects the shot because, unfortunately, shotguns are scatter.
And it's an antique diver's helmet. They made it right.
Yeah.
They made it to last.
Mm-hmm.
Sharks could chew on antique diver's helmet and take that fact to the bank.
Yeah. I do think that Drogo's got the mobility to keep from getting blasted by the big-ass cannon on the tank.
Exactly, and I think that's where this matchup, that's like where the fun of it really lies for me, because they are decently evenly matched, despite the fact that they have vastly different advantages.
Yeah. And you know what Drogo knows how to do?
What?
Zigzag.
It's so perfect!
Yeah.
Oh my god, and Rickon would have fucking loved a Drogo.
Oh yeah.
If they had somehow met, he would have been like, oh my god, this is Rickon's revenge.
Yeah, this is Rickon's revenge. Rickon is watching over from a unicorn in heaven. But I think that we're at an impasse.
Okay, so let's, maybe. I think I'm close to it, but... So the situation is at this point that Drogo has opened fire. It's now a full-fledged battle. Ramsay is not going to hear reason anymore. So he opened fire on Ramsay. It was deflected. And then Drogo was smart enough to know to get out of the way of the big cannon. But Ramsay did fire off a couple of shots. So now he knows what the cannon can do.
Yes.
And now I feel like it's just Drogo with his horse running back and forth, kind of dodging the cannon because he's zigzagging. I think, okay, how does Drogo win this, though? What's the strategy before we move on? I think we are at a bit of an impasse.
I mean, he's got to get close enough to get to essentially Indiana Jones mount the tank and get up on top to lift Ramsay out by his helmet and either toss him or shoot him.
So he's got to get on the tank. Now, is that gun 360?
Even if it is, it's slow.
Okay, cool. So I think as he's zigzagging back and forth on his horse in front of, and like Old Town is getting destroyed around them, Maesters are fleeing left and right. Gilly's there somewhere.
Sam is reading in the sunlight and hasn't noticed that things have changed.
No, not at all. Sam's in heaven.
Yeah.
So okay, so we've got Drogo galloping back and forth in front of this tank. Yeah, I think the strategy here is that he's got to move fast enough to do that, and then obviously like he can hop off the horse and get on the tank.
Yeah.
So and then at that point, I think we can agree there's no way Ramsay's getting out of that hole fast enough to defend himself against Drogo, or like because of the so I'm gonna say that he can drive from the hole, but I don't think the hole is big enough for him to like keep a bow and arrow handy and effectively get it out and angled in time to be of any defense.
I'm going to agree with you.
I also think so
generally we need to take this to an additional round, but
I feel like truthfully
Drogo's got it.
Yeah, I really do think that. I think it was a little bit more short and sweet than we expected, but
yeah. I like that we're surprised by our own game.
We're surprised by Drogo's prowess. We're the two people on this planet who should not be.
Yeah. Do you want to draw the remaining two, see if it changes anything?
I guess I'm trying to think if there's anything. Is there anything Ramsay can do besides he can't really speed up the tank. The tank can't make many sudden movements, and he's only got the one gun.
Yeah.
I think, you know what he can do? He can get in the tank.
He can get in the tank, but the mustache can get him out.
Yeah, but he can hang it, like, he could wait out, like, Okay, so that's all right. Now I feel like we're at an actual draw, and we can move on and draw another attribute, because I think Are you saying that
Drogo cannot pick locks and or go through... Drogo's mustache is not able to squeeze through any cracks in the tank?
I do not think the mustache has the strength of 10 men the way I want it to, but I don't think that that's fair. So I think what happens here is Ramsay sees the oncoming threat that is Drogo, and to kind of confer and figure out what the hell to do, because Maester Wolkoft, or whoever that guy is down there, the Maester with the worst job in the world is down there, just kind of like, So I think, he dives in the hole to come up with a better strategy. Since the tank is stopped at the moment, or it's not stopped, but the gun isn't moving. Drogo, I think, is now just. Do we think he's on top of the tank now?
I think he's on top of the tank now.
Yeah, and I think he's maybe firing at the hatch.
And or just trying to pull it.
Yeah. He's busy trying to get inside. So yeah, let's draw our other attributes. You do Ramsay, I'll do Drogo.
Okay. Ramsay is wearing sharpened stilettos.
This just became the best episode of RuPaul's Drag Race. So Ramsay's driving a tank, locked in an antique diver's helmet, and is now looking fabulous.
Wearing nice stilettos.
Drogo. All right, we'll pull something out of our bag today for Drogo. Drogo is now armed with a shotgun, a mustache that can stretch and move at will, and controls an army of flying monkeys.
Okay, if there's anywhere in Westeros that has an army of flying monkeys that isn't a shy, it's the Citadel.
I was going to say, right? They had to be in one of their attics.
Yeah.
I think one of the spin-offs that HBO should consider is just like an animated version of the Ravens at the Citadel, or the Ravens of Westeros. It'd be like the Sesame Street version of Game of Thrones.
Yeah, I was thinking Scrubs at the Citadel.
Oh, that would also work.
I don't think the stilettos make a difference, and I think the armies will, at the very least, give him a chance to always have an eye out for when Ramsay eventually has to get out of that tank.
Ooh, or I do like the idea of an army of flying monkeys, like discreetly following Ramsay wherever he goes and jumping from building to building. Not jumping, flying. I kind of like the idea of Drogo just kind of pulling a gladiator moment and having them all band together to fly away the tank out of Old Town, and then he just starts dropping it.
I could see that. Yeah,
at
I'll
different
give
points
you that instead.
On the reach to try and get it to open.
Yeah, simply for dramatic effect, he is going to be the seagull with the turtle.
Or in any case, what this has now shown me is that if he drops it off a cliff, we can get the exact shot they had of the Nazi commander in Indiana Jones going off the cliff, because maybe Ramsay just figured out how to get his antique diver's helmet out, pokes his head up out the hatch, only to realize that he's dropping down a deadly amount of feet and screams, and then like we get a wide shot and we see his body like bandied around like it's a sausage.
Yep.
Yeah, I like this. This is a good one.
Yeah.
They do not go to brunch.
They do not go to brunch. I don't know why I thought this was going to be a closer fight than it was. I don't know why I thought there was any chance we'd give it to Ramsay.
I think we put a lot of faith in the tank.
I think we put a lot of faith in ourselves as honest and impartial judges.
That's also true. Guys, it's doubtful that Ramsay is going to win any super fight on this podcast. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know that Rickon's going to let me do that. We're going to give this victory to Rickon. This episode.
We're going to, this one goes out to Rickon.
Forever
taken before his time.
Before his time. Before his time.
Before his lines.
That poor kid. Anyway, well, thank you so much for joining us for another week of GoT Thrones Super Fight. We are here every Monday with more ridiculous arguments to be had and any Game of Thrones news that pops up along the way.
Yep. Thanks, everybody. We will see you next week.
See you next week.